Granola dates back to the mid-19th century health food craze when everyone was constipated. And that was because no one had any fiber in their diets. But no one knew that at the time. No one knew that was the cause. Health food pioneers like John Harvey Kellogg and James Caleb Jackson created whole grain based foods to replace the meat and egg dishes that Americans typically ate for breakfast. They were so successful that today granola has become a generic term and remains a brand name only in Australia and New Zealand. And today, I'm going to show you how to make it. You start with 7 cups of rolled oats. And rather than getting a big bowl of rolled oats and then using 1 cup scoop to scoop out 7 cups, I figured out what 7 cups looks like in a jar that I happen to have and just fill it up to there and use that as my measuring device. We also need a cup of chopped nuts. And you can use any kind of nuts you want. I happen to have almonds in the house, so today's granola is going to be almonds. If you use sunflower seeds, you don't need to chop them up. They're small enough already. Just think about how big a piece you want in your spoonful of cereal when you're eating it. And that's the size that you make your slices. We also have 1 cup of bran or wheat germ or a combination of both. I happen to have a lot of bran, so this is just wheat bran. And 1 cup of shredded unsweetened coconut. And your measurements don't have to be precise. It's not a picky dish. And mix up the dry ingredients. Oh yeah, and you'll want a really big bowl, because this makes a lot of stuff. And when you're stirring it, you know, if it's a small bowl, the stuff can go everywhere. A friend of mine once asked me, what's the secret ingredient in making breakfast cereal? The thing that turns muesli into granola is rice syrup. I don't get paid by these people. This just happens to be basically the only source of rice syrup in the world. There's a Korean brand. That's the Great Rice Syrup Shortage of the 2019 saw the disappearance of this stuff from the shelves because they couldn't get, I think it was the jars or the lids or something wasn't available. So I had to search the entire world for another source of rice syrup. There's a small Korean brand, I forgot their name. I never managed to actually get my hands on any, so we had to go without granola for like 2 months before this stuff was back in stock. Oh yeah, so you need 1 cup. Oh yeah, first you want a 1/2 cup of peanut oil. And measure out the oil before you measure the rice syrup, because the rice syrup sticks to everything. And that's its secret in making granola. It makes everything stick together. So a 1/2 cup of oil and 1 cup of rice syrup. See how nicely that comes out of the measuring cup? Oh yeah, and this stuff gets everywhere. Everything that it touches becomes permanently stuck on with rice syrup. Uh-oh. See, hold on. I didn't have all my tools ready. The tools are important. Have a spatula ready. Let's see, we've got peanut oil. Don't use olive oil. That's not the right flavor for granola. Peanut oil or some neutral oil like safflower or canola is fine. Oil, rice syrup, a little bit of salt, and 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Oh yeah, if you're gonna make your cereal regularly, like this is the only cereal that I eat, so I make a lot of it. It's too expensive to buy those little tiny bottles of vanilla, so I make my own. I'll show you how to make this later, maybe in another video. And emulsify the oil and the rice syrup. That's an important step, and it takes a long time and a bit of effort. It's really warm today, so it may take actually a little longer to emulsify the two. The rice syrup pours out of the jar a lot easier when it's warm, but emulsifying takes a little more effort. If you've ever made saltwater taffy, this is kind of like what you're going after. That's hard to describe what it feels like when it's fully emulsified. The whisk goes through the stuff pretty easily when you first start out, but when it's fully emulsified, it suddenly becomes really thick. Yeah, that's good. That's about what it should look like. And it takes a little while for it to fully drain out of the whisk. The next step is to grease the cookie sheets. You can oil them, you can smear them with cooking grease. I use butter. Oops. The easiest way I found to do this is to put a little dab of butter on the cookie sheets. Put them in the oven for a minute. When they get fully melted, then we will brush them. In the meantime, we're going to pour the liquid ingredients into the bowl with the dry ingredients. And this needs to be done fairly slowly so that you get you don't want huge globs of liquid and then vast areas of dry with no liquid. That's thoroughly mixed. Your oven should be preheated to 250 degrees. And your timer, you should have two timers. One set for 2 hours and one set for 20 minutes. Total baking time will be 2 hours. And you're going to stir and turn every 20 minutes during that 2 hours. And evenly distribute the granola into the two cookie sheets. Spread out the cereal. What the baking does is it both toasts it and dehydrates it. It's really wet right now, kind of soggy. 2 hours in the oven at 250 is just right for taking all the moisture out. When cereal gets stale, like packaged cereal, or I suppose even granola gets stale, though I've never had it in the house for long enough for it to get stale. It'll last at least 3, maybe 4 weeks. Never had it around for that long. But when it gets stale, that's because it's absorbing moisture. If you live in Arizona, your granola is probably going to last for 6 months. If you live in Ohio, you'll probably want to maybe bake it a second time if you're going to have it around for more than a week. It's in the oven. Timer is set for 2 hours and for 20 minutes, and I will be back in 20 minutes to stir it. See you then. It's been 20 minutes. It's time to turn it. We turn it when we turn and stir the cereal in order to make sure that all the surface of the ingredients are exposed to the air so that it can dry out faster. My favorite stirring utensil is a spatula, and you can get a pretty good amount of cereal. Flip it over. The more gentle the stir, the less likely it is that you'll break up the clusters. You not only stir, but you also take the cookie sheet that was on the bottom rack and put it on the top. And the one that was on the top rack will be placed back on the bottom rack. nice and even. Put it back in the oven, set the timer for another 20 minutes, and then we'll keep on doing that every 20 minutes until the 2 hours are up. Then it'll come out of the oven. Then we can add dried fruit, let it cool, and put it in a container. It's been 2 hours. We've turned the cereal every 20 minutes, and it's ready for this. It's ready to come out of the oven. And we're going to want to let this cool for, I think it takes about an hour, depending on how your air circulation is and how cold it is in your kitchen. When it's anytime before you package it up, you're going to add 2 cups of dried fruit. Any kind of dried fruit you do, just as long as it's cut up small enough to fit in your spoon. I'm using 1 cup of dried raisins and 1 cup of chopped up dried peaches. Again, you can use any kind of dried fruit you want. And once that's cool, we're just gonna pretend that it's cool. You definitely want to make sure it's cool before you put the lid on your container. Otherwise, as it cools down, it continues to dehydrate. When it's hot, when it's hotter than the surrounding air, moisture will continue to evaporate from the granola. So you want to let it cool down to room temperature before you put it in your container. Once it's cool and in your container, you can dish it up into your cereal bowl. Serve it with milk or yogurt, or both, as I do with fresh fruit. And eat it with a spoon. So happy breakfast, and I'll see you next time.